Most people are waiting. Waiting for permission. Waiting for proof. Waiting for someone to finally look at them and say you are ready now. But that moment almost never comes. Not because you are not capable. Not because you lack intelligence, discipline, talent, or potential. It does not come because the world does not hand out permission slips for greatness. It never has. The people who changed history, who rebuilt their health at 50, who started businesses in their 40s, who turned their lives around after divorce, illness, or failure, they did not wait. They decided. They made a private decision before the results showed up, before the applause, before a single person believed in them. They acted as if. There is a quiet, almost dangerous power in those three words. Act as if you are the best. Not pretend. Not fake confidence. Not performing like you are on stage. This is deeper than that. This lives in your daily choices. It shows up at 5 in the morning when the alarm rings and no one is watching. It shows up when quitting would be easier. It shows up in the voice you choose to listen to when fear gets loud. This is not about arrogance. The best rarely announce themselves. They do not need to. Their standards speak for them. Here on Stoicism Breath, this is your blueprint. Not hype. Not empty motivation. A shift in how you think, how you move, how you show up in your own life. And if you are between 25 and 65, juggling work, family, stress, responsibilities, this message matters even more. Because at this stage of life, waiting costs you years. And years are not refundable. Every transformation has a starting point. But it is almost never the moment the world sees. It is not the promotion. Not the viral post. Not the championship. Not the dramatic before and after photo. The real starting point is quiet, invisible, private. It happens in a moment when you decide who you are. Muhammad Ali did not become the greatest the night he beat Sonny Liston. He became it years earlier in small, sweaty gyms before sunrise. When the city was asleep and the only audience was his own reflection, he decided first. The world eventually caught up. Here is a truth most people are never taught. Identity is not a reward for achievement. Identity is the engine of achievement. Think about how you talk to yourself when things get hard. Do you say, "I am not disciplined"? "I am just not built like that"? "I will believe in myself when I see results"? That story shapes everything. Most people operate from that script. "I will believe it when I see it." But the truth is the opposite. Results follow belief, not the other way around. If you keep waiting for external validation, you will keep waiting. Because the goalposts keep moving when you have not decided who you are. Lose 20 pounds, and you will say, "Now I need more muscle." Get the promotion, and you will say, "Now I need the next title." The mind that waits for proof never feels enough. So what does deciding actually look like? It is not a dramatic speech. Not a journal entry you write once and forget. Deciding looks like this. Tomorrow morning you wake up and you make choices as if you are already the best version of yourself. How you stand. How you speak. What you tolerate. What you refuse to accept. If you believed you were someone who respects their body, would you skip movement for the 5th day in a row? If you believed you were someone with mental strength, would you let one criticism ruin your entire week? If you believed you were disciplined, would you keep negotiating with your excuses? William James, one of the early pioneers of psychology, said, "Act as if what you do makes a difference because it does." Every action you take is a vote for the identity you are building. And here is the powerful part: no one else gets to cast that vote for you. Not after you lose the weight. Not after your business takes off. Not after your doctor gives you a warning about blood pressure or cholesterol. Right now. But here is where it becomes uncomfortable. The moment you decide to show up differently, something inside you pushes back. This is not weakness. This is biology. Psychologists call it cognitive dissonance. Your brain is wired for consistency and survival. When you step into a new identity, your brain questions it. It whispers, "Who do you think you are?" It reminds you of every failure, every embarrassing memory, every person who ever doubted you. Maybe you decide to wake up earlier. The next morning your mind says you need the sleep. Maybe you decide to clean up your nutrition. Suddenly cravings feel stronger. Maybe you decide to speak up more confidently at work. Your old fear shows up louder than ever. That resistance does not mean you are wrong. It means you are crossing a threshold. Your brain prefers the familiar, even if the familiar is unhealthy, even if it is average, even if it is keeping you stuck. Familiar feels safe. Growth feels uncertain. And for the brain, uncertainty can feel like danger. But here is the shift. You do not eliminate the doubt. You lead anyway. Instead of arguing with every thought, you anchor your actions to identity. The best version of you does not negotiate basic standards. You do not debate whether to brush your teeth. You do not question whether to breathe. In the same way, you can reach a point where taking care of your body, protecting your time, speaking with integrity becomes non-negotiable. And science supports this. Studies consistently show that consistent moderate exercise reduces the risk of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and cognitive decline. Regular sleep improves memory, immune function, and emotional stability. Balanced nutrition stabilizes blood sugar and energy, which directly impacts mood and decision-making. These are not extreme biohacks. They are daily standards. So ask yourself, what is your standard? Not your mood. Not your motivation. Your standard. Because motivation fades. Stress happens. Work gets busy. Family demands your attention. But a standard remains. It is the minimum level of effort and integrity you bring to each day regardless of how you feel. And here is the deeper truth. The real battle is not outside. It is internal. It is the moment you decide whether to act as the person you claim to be. You cross a threshold when you decide, but you solidify it when you act. So tomorrow morning, before the emails, before the news, before the noise, make one decision as the best version of you would. Just one. Maybe it is a 20-minute walk. Maybe it is preparing a healthy breakfast instead of grabbing processed food. Maybe it is responding calmly instead of reacting emotionally. Do not wait for applause. Do not wait for proof. Act as if. Because in that decision, you are no longer waiting for permission. You are building identity. And identity, sustained over time, changes everything. Your brain is not trying to destroy you. It is trying to protect you. That is its job. It protects what is familiar. The problem is that what feels familiar is often the very thing keeping you small. Comfort feels safe. Scrolling feels safe. Procrastinating feels safe. Staying quiet feels safe. But safe and great are rarely the same thing. Kobe Bryant once spoke about the internal war between the version of yourself that wants comfort and the version that is capable of something extraordinary. He did not deny fear. He did not pretend it was not there. He trained alongside it. He exposed himself to discomfort so consistently that his nervous system stopped treating it like danger. That was not talent. That was repetition. That was practice. And this applies far beyond sports. It applies to your health, your career, your relationships. When you start waking up earlier, your body resists. When you begin exercising consistently after years of inactivity, your muscles ache and your mind looks for excuses. When you decide to eat better, cravings intensify before they weaken. Your brain is trying to pull you back to the familiar. So what does this internal war actually look like in your daily life? It looks like setting an alarm with good intentions, and then reaching for your phone instead of getting out of bed. It looks like promising yourself you will start that project tonight, and then negotiating with yourself 5 minutes later. It looks like wanting to speak up in a meeting, and then swallowing your words. Small surrenders. Tiny compromises. Individually, they seem harmless. Over time, they compound into a life that looks nothing like the one you once imagined. Many people respond by trying to fight themselves harder. They shame themselves. They push with anger. They rely on willpower alone. But that approach burns people out. It turns growth into punishment. The real solution is different. You make your identity stronger than your resistance. When your actions are anchored to who you are instead of how you feel, they become non-negotiable. You do not argue with brushing your teeth. You do not negotiate with breathing. In the same way, the best version of you does not negotiate with basic standards. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said you have power over your mind, not over outside events. That means the real battlefield is internal. The traffic, the economy, other people's opinions, those are not fully in your control. But the decision to show up according to your standard is. You win the internal war not by eliminating doubt, but by refusing to let doubt lead. Doubt can sit in the passenger seat. It just does not get to drive. That is the shift. From passenger to driver. From reacting to deciding. This is the pivot point. This is where everything you have promised yourself must land in real life. In your calendar. In your habits. In the unglamorous details of how you actually spend your time. Here is the truth that separates people who talk about being their best from those who actually become it. The best have a standard, not a mood. Most people operate based on how they feel. They work out when motivated. They eat healthy when inspired. They focus when conditions are perfect. But motivation is unreliable. Inspiration is inconsistent. Conditions are almost never perfect. If you wait to feel ready, you will spend most of your life waiting. A daily standard is different. It is a non-negotiable baseline. The minimum acceptable level of effort, focus, and integrity you bring to each day, regardless of how tired you are, regardless of what happened yesterday, regardless of whether anyone notices. Michael Jordan did not separate his practices into good days and bad days the way others did. He had a standard, and that standard showed up whether he felt like it or not. So what does a daily standard look like for you, especially if you are balancing work, family, and responsibilities between the ages of 25 and 65? It starts in the morning. Not with what you consume, but with what you produce. Before checking your phone. Before reading emails. Before absorbing news and social media. You do something that belongs to you. Maybe it is 30 minutes of focused work on a personal goal. Maybe it is strength training or a brisk walk. Maybe it is reading 10 pages of a book that strengthens your thinking. Research consistently shows that even 30 minutes of moderate exercise most days of the week can significantly reduce the risk of heart disease and improve mental clarity. Morning sunlight exposure helps regulate circadian rhythm and improve sleep quality at night. These are small actions with powerful long-term effects. The content of your morning routine matters less than the pattern. You are training identity. Every morning you are reinforcing who you are becoming. Then that standard extends beyond health. It shows up in how you speak. The best do not complain publicly, not because their lives are easy, but because complaint reinforces a victim mindset, and they have already chosen a different identity. It shows up in how you respond to setbacks. Do you spiral into self-pity, or do you adjust and move forward? It shows up in how you treat people when there is nothing to gain. How you act when no one important is watching. Set your standard. Write it down if you need to. Make it clear, not vague. Specific. For example, I move my body at least 30 minutes a day. I do not skip workouts twice in a row. I speak calmly under pressure. I do not go to bed scrolling for an hour. Then hold that standard tomorrow. Not forever. Just tomorrow. Then repeat the next day. That is how the best are built. Not in dramatic breakthroughs, but in ordinary days lived at a higher level. On Stoicism Breath, the message is simple. You do not need to feel powerful to act with power. You do not need to eliminate fear to move forward. You need a standard strong enough that your emotions no longer run your life. Comfort will always call you back. Familiar habits will always whisper. But when identity becomes clear and standards become non-negotiable, the internal war quiets. And slowly, steadily, you begin to live as the person you once only imagined. One non-negotiable day at a time. That sounds simple. But this is the hardest chapter of all. Not because the ideas are complicated, but because this is where it becomes personal.